Hi, everybody. Welcome to Taiwan Talk, brought to you by ICRT FM 100.7. I'm your host, Alex Lewis. This week, I spoke to Hal Falls, a friend of mine from a running group that we run with. Hal has been living in Taiwan for a time, and as with most people who have been around a while, they have interesting stories and perspectives to share. In our conversation, Hal will share what brought him to Taiwan in the first place and how he spent his time here professionally up until now. He is currently the general manager of the Miaoli Wind Company, and he has some insightful comments about Taiwan's push to develop offshore wind energy in the hopes to wean itself off of fossil fuels and nuclear energy. I hope you enjoy listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. Hal Falls, welcome to Taiwan Talk. How are you doing, man?
Good. Very good.
All right, very cool. We're going to talk about your company, the Miaoli Wind Company. But first, tell me about, what brought you to Taiwan.
It's kind of controversial, right?
Is it?
Well, yeah. I first came to Taiwan in 1983 to work on the Monsan nuclear station down in Kenting.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, I was former Navy submarines, nuclear submarines, and when I got out, from submarines, the Navy sent me to a training center to teach people how to operate nuclear facilities on submarines. And that was 4 years. When I got out of that, Westinghouse hired me directly to teach people how to operate commercial stations. And one of my classes was upper management people from Taipower. And after the class was over, they asked my bosses if I could be sent to Kenting to help teach and be like a operations supervisor in the control room. And I jumped on it. I mean, shoot, man, who wouldn't? Yeah.
But back then, was Taiwan well known? Did you know about Taiwan as the culture and
it's really crazy, Alex, because in the I'm dating myself here. Back in the 70s, when I was already in the Navy, I went to the Field Museum in Chicago, and the Republic of China, Taiwan at the time, they called themselves Republic of China. They were doing dances and performances and cultural training or cultural events at the Field Museum, and I was watching it, and I really became fascinated with Taiwan at that time, and I told my wife that, I really want to go. I would really like to see Taiwan. So just when this opportunity came up, I said, "Yeah, I'll take it. I'm going." Yeah. So I spent 2 years living down in Kenting in the early '80s.
And what was Kenting like back in the '80s?
Empty. Yeah. I'd get up every morning and run on the road, and it was like brand new 4-lane highway. There was typically dead snakes in the middle of the road, and goats eating all the newly planted palm trees that they're trying to grow. And that was basically it. Every once in a while there might be a car. There was no hotels. There was no restaurants. It was still martial law, so we really weren't allowed to use the swimming beaches. So it was kind of isolated.
How'd you pass your time?
Working
and running.
Yeah, working. But, I had my wife and daughter down there, and they had a school set up, like an international school for first through 8 or K through 8 for all the expats that live down there. If you drive down there on the right-hand side just before you get to Nanwan, you'll see a housing complex.
And that's where you used to live?
That's where we used to live, yeah.
Okay. In 1980, early 80s, right?
83 and 84.
Okay. And did you stay in Taiwan, or did you tell me the story from there?
Well, they sent me to South Korea from there, and then they sent me to the Philippines, and then I went back to the USA for a while, and then I got sent back to Taiwan in 1992 to Taipei to help build a desktop simulator about the size of the studio for doing training and testing on what they call major incidents.
For Taipower?
For Taipower, for the same power station. So it was all computer-based, but they needed somebody to just help test it and make sure that it was fairly realistic.
Right.
So I got sent back. That was in 1992. They said you'd be there for a year, and after 10 months, they said it's time to go back to the States, and I said, nah, I'm staying.
All right. So did you have to quit your job to stay here?
Yeah,
or?
I did. I quit. I just quit. I mean, I really enjoyed being in Taipei. I really enjoyed being in Taiwan. So I just quit and stayed.
Wow. I mean, job prospects or anything like that? Or
No.
Any pushback from your family, like your wife and your daughter?
No, but it was really interesting. I went back to the USA for Christmas the next year. I think that was like in '93. And I said, I've just been doing some part-time stuff in Taiwan, and maybe I'll just stay in the United States. And I was just kind of clowning around. And so I opened the Phoenix, whatever it was, newspaper and going through the WAN ads. And there was an ad in there. It said, the state of Arizona is looking for a director for their international trade office representing Asia, located in the Taipei World Trade Center.
No way.
Oh yeah, way.
Oh.
Wait. So I said, well, that's my job.
Yeah.
Closed up the newspaper, and I went down to the Capitol building, and I got an application. And because everything is state and it's open for review, so I went back into the records files, and I went through all the people who had interviewed for the jobs previously and why they got selected or why they didn't get selected, and I took out the stuff I liked and put in the stuff that they liked, and I submitted it and got shortlisted and ended up getting the job. So
wow.
I was already. They said, well, you got to be in Taiwan for this and for the interview, and I said, I live there. I'm from Arizona and I live here, and I might as well take it.
Right. It was just like a match made in heaven.
It was like a match made in heaven.
Yeah. Finding that just in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Which is really dating yourself, by the way.
Well, never thought of that.
Yeah.
Well, but it's really weird because they said that they'd publicized it in Taiwan, but only in the Chinese language newspapers. So if I had stayed here, I wouldn't have seen it because I don't read the Chinese newspapers over here. I mean, everybody was reading now I'm really dating myself. Everybody was reading the China Post, but it wasn't listed there. So yeah. Wow. Serendipitous, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then you came back with that job, and then you kind of stayed in that role?
I had to come back over here for the interview.
So you came back without even having the job in hand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I knew it was coming back anyways because my house and everything else was here. So if I'd actually found a job over there, I would have needed to come back over here and pack up everything and ship it back over there. Sort
of like extricate yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So then you got the job, and then you kind of stayed in that role for however long?
Till like 1990. Oh, till not 1990. It's till like 2007.
2007.
Yeah. And I was working for the state of Arizona and representing for trade and investment.
How was that?
For Asia? It was great. For all of Asia. And all of Asia included like the Middle East.
Oh, wow. So
I mean, if you go to like the
region.
APEC, they consider Asia to be India, Middle East, all these kind of places. So, I mean, I actually went to like the Maldives Islands working for the state of Arizona, and Sri Lanka working for the state of Arizona, Singapore, places like that.
Yeah.
Japan. It was great.
When you say working for the state of Arizona, you don't really think about, a job that would take you to all these different places. That's cool.
But it was trade and investment, right?
Right.
So we were trying to put the Arizona brand out there. Come invest in Arizona, buy Arizona products. We were not about reverse trade per se. If like it's like your dad, right? I mean, he works for trade and investment, and if it has like 50% product or more for U.S. and we can help them to acquire products so that they can maintain at least 50% without going over it, yeah, we'd do that too.
Okay, very nice.
It was interesting.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. So then how were the ties between Arizona and Taiwan? Like, were they strong or?
Remember Barry Goldwater?
Yeah, I remember Barry Goldwater.
Well, Barry Goldwater was one of the people that was sticking up for Taiwan at the time when they were pulling him out of the UN, and he was one of the people that was absolutely insisting on the the Taiwan communications.
Yeah, the 3 communiques.
Not the 3 communiques. The letter that puts the unofficial ties together. I can't remember what it's called between the USA and Taiwan. And Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was one of the strong defenders of Taiwan, and he's from Arizona. He's the Arizona senator. So, yeah, they were. I mean, not so much anymore. I don't think the generations today really remember Barry Goldwater per se, but
they might know who he is, but not in relation to Taiwan. Like his relation to Taiwan. Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that, so I guess
he was
case in point.
Yeah, he was pretty much a strong defender of Taiwan, or the Republic of China, you might say, especially when the Republic of China was being asked to leave the UN.
Okay, so then how did you transition to owning this company, the Miaoli, or starting up this company, Miaoli Wind Company?
Okay, well, I didn't start this company.
You kind of bought it over, right?
Yeah, we have a team of investors. The investors are from Australia and Japan. And I, again, serendipitous, right? There's a gentleman that I run with who works for a headhunter agency. And he called me one day and he said, Hal, I know you have a power background. And there's this company from Australia that bought this wind farm. And they're looking for a commercial manager. And you got to teach me everything you know about wind power so that I can go out and find a manager for this thing. And I talked to him probably for a good 45 minutes to an hour explaining this and this and this and this and this is what you'd want to look for. And he wasn't getting it. He just wasn't catching on. So I just said, give him my resume. Let's see what happens. So we did. And 2 days later, I got this call and it said, come on over for an interview with this Australian investment group. So I did, and then they said, well, tomorrow morning we're going out to the wind farm. We'd like you to tag along. So I'm thinking it's still part of the interview process. He said, we're taking a whole board of investors out to the wind farm. I said, okay. So
pretty intense interview right there.
It was a pretty intense interview, but as it turned out, it wasn't an interview. They had already decided to hire me.
I see.
And so when I'm on this tour, they said, so you're our new commercial manager, right? And I'm like,
it's news to me.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's me.
Okay.
And they're asking me all these technical questions about this machine and what's this and what's this. And
did you know that just based off your background in nuclear power?
Well,
or was it did you have to study for that, or like?
No. I mean, power, the way power is generated, the generators and stuff like that, it's fairly consistent. But the night before the tour, I went online and looked up the company who makes these turbines, and I studied as much as I could about these particular turbines before the tour started. So, I mean, I figured at least if I did that, I would hopefully know a little bit more than investment people.
Right.
Yeah, and the questions were directly in line with what I hoped they would be.
Okay.
What's that little thing spinning around on the top, and how fast do these things turn, and how much power do they make? And yeah.
Okay.
It went pretty well.
Yeah.
Then we came back to Taipei, and they said, okay, this is your office in this building. And I'm like, oh, okay. Huh?
Yeah. And this is after you left the trade office, the Arizona trade office?
Arizona actually left. They actually left Taiwan. The Arizona legislature decided to close down the Arizona Department of Commerce, and in doing so, they shut down all of their international offices. So they actually left us.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And how long was the gap between that and you receiving this position?
I was still working in the office. We'd picked up what they call an offset project through Mitsubishi. You'd have to look up offsets, but we were doing contract work for Mitsubishi, helping them spend their offset dollars in Taiwan, doing training for TPC and the EPA, things like that. And a lot of it was about environmental projects that we were presenting to the EPA and to Thai Power. And I was happy doing that. We were happy doing that. And then I got this call to say, can you help me? And I ended up taking the job. I'm still working in the same building as where my original office is, Taipei World Trade Center.
Yeah.
I just moved the office down the hall a little bit.
Really?
Just stayed there, yeah.
Okay.
Well, they wanted to put me in this office someplace over on Bada Road. And for the same size space that I have now, they were asking 157,000 NT a month.
Jesus.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Exactly. I'm like, but it's a small 14-ping space. And they said, well, you're only paying for this much for the space, but you have to pay for all the common space too. And I'm like, I convinced my company we could be in the Taipei World Trade Center where they have parking and they have, everybody knows where it is and it's a great location and it's like 25,000 a month. And they said, move.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
Okay. And you're just closer to other, to other trade organizations and agencies.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they still have so many of the foreign offices in there. Oman is in there, Thailand's in there, Chile's in there, Bolivia's in there. Yeah, so why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So could you tell me a little bit about the company? Like, so you have 25 wind turbines.
Yes.
And you generate 49,800 kilowatt hours.
Yeah, that's our potential.
Potential. Okay. Could you put that into perspective? Potential and how much that is.
Okay.
In everyday terms.
Each turbine can generate 2,000 kilowatts. One of the turbines will generate 1,800, but that's just because we have a manual setting on it. Our license is only for 49,800 kilowatts, and that has to do with the EPA rules at the time. Mm. So we could not exceed 50,000 under the existing EPA rules at the time. Mm-hmm. So
at the time, when was that?
It was originally built in 2006. So I'm sure the whole EPA process was 2004, 2005, like that.
Okay. And it stayed with that. Those regulations. It has been, I guess.
Yes.
Amended.
Well,
since.
It hasn't been. We asked if we could do it, and they said, if you want to do it, you have to go through the whole EPA process again. Yeah, we said it's just not worth it.
Right.
It's just not worth it. So not for 200 kilowatts. And when I say 50,000 total kilowatts, right? One turbine at full power can supply enough electricity for maybe 2,800 Taiwan homes for an average electric use.
Right.
And we say average. We say averages in like in Miaoli or Holong, where we're located, is maybe 0.7 kilowatts per hour on the average. So 15, 17 kilowatts total a day. You can go look at your bill. It's probably even someplace close to that. Mm-hmm. So at full power, we can do about 2,800 homes from one.
From one wind turbine.
Yeah.
Okay.
From one wind turbine.
And you have 25 of them.
And we have 25 of them. So, I mean, what are we looking at? 34,000 homes if we are at full power. Right. If the wind is blowing at full power.
What if the wind isn't blowing? Or like, what's the discrepancy between potential and actually generated energy?
We call that our capacity factor. Mm-hmm. And our capacity factor, we average about 30%. So on the average, if we could do 2,000, so we're averaging 600 kilowatts per hour is the average. Mm-hmm. And that's really something that's you got to keep in mind for the government's plans to, build 20% of grid capacity using alternatives. Mm. So just because we say we're 2,000, when the wind is full, which it very, very seldom is, we can do 2,000 kilowatts or 50,000, 49,000. Let's say 50,000 total. Mm-hmm. But if the wind is down, obviously the power drops.
Right.
And if we're averaging 30% out of 50,000, what's that?
Much less.
Much less. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and that's the average. But if you get into the summertime when you really need the electricity, mm-hmm. there's no wind.
Really?
If you go out there today, there's very, very little wind. If you're blowing at 4 meters per second or 5 meters per second, you're generating next to nothing. Full power is 13 meters per second wind speed. 4 or 5 meters per second, you might be generating 100.
Okay.
100 kilowatts per turbine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're in the middle of summertime and you've got all these turbines out in the middle of the ocean and they're generating 10%, let me give you a perspective. You take the Monson Nuclear Station where I worked.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 reactors out there. Each one generates 1,000 megawatts per hour. What they generate in 3 days takes us 1 year to generate on the average. So they do it in 3 days. If you want to shut those things down, how many wind turbines do you really need?
A buttload, I guess is a scientific term.
Yeah, because if you're at full power, that's 2,000. That's 2,000. These new things off of shore, they're like 5 megawatts a piece at full power. So, 5 megawatts into 2,000, how many you need? Like 800 or something?
Yeah. So you're kind of making the case against having your wind farm.
Oh, no. I think wind energy is great. It's great.
But it's not dependent, or it's not reliable.
It's not
source.
as reliable as it should be. I guess what I'm trying to say is you cannot completely depend on renewables to fill the void for fossils at this point in our lives.
Right. Yeah.
At this point in our lives. If you want to shut down nuke stations, that's up to them. That's up to the government. But to say you're going to do it with renewables, you would probably need about 4,000 wind turbines offshore to replace one nuclear power station. Reliably.
Yeah.
Reliably.
And if they do generate, let's say the wind is at full bore and they do generate to their full capacity.
Yeah.
Are there any like battery systems or like systems where they can store the energy generated?
Everything goes directly to the grid.
I see.
Everything that we generate now goes onto the grid. All of these solars that are generated, everything goes onto the grid. I don't know of any real storage systems, commercial storage systems in Taiwan at this time.
Isn't that a necessity? Because like in the summertime, wind power is less. Energy consumption is much higher because of AC and all these other things.
Yeah.
How do you ameliorate that? How do you address that issue?
But there's no reliable, cost-effective storage systems that are available commercially. I mean, when I lived in Arizona, they had energy storage systems, but it was lakes. In the daytime, they use hydro. They go from one lake through the hydro system down into the next lake, which was a hydro, down into the next lake, and then at night they turn the hydro generators into pumps, and they use the nuclear power station sitting out in the desert, which they wanted to keep at 100%, and they turned them into pumps and pumped the water back up to the top. So it's like energy storage. That's how they stored the energy. But batteries, expensive, short life. It's just not there yet, Alex.
Okay. So then, how is business then? So you sell the energy that you create to Taipower,
to TPC, right?
To TPC. How's that been? Like, have you recouped your initial investment? Because wind turbines are expensive to implement, right?
Yeah. Basically, when the investor puts money into it, they put a certain amount of their money into it, and then local banks like to be involved, and they like to put their money into it, and everything is typically based on 20 years. So they really don't look at how quickly do I get back my money. They know that the investment is a 20-year investment. Our power purchase agreement from Taipower is a 20-year power purchase agreement. They give us a set rate that lasts for 20 years. And Taipower is gold. I mean, they're gold. You generate the power. You send them the bill. In fact, a lot of times they send us a bill. They send us their bill and said, this is what we generated. This is what we're going to pay you. And they pay on time. So, everything is generated. And we collect the bills, the invoices, and maybe it's about 15% return annually.
Okay.
It's not bad, right?
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
One big, I guess, criticism or drawback is that whether wind farms are cost competitive with, other like fossil fuel systems and such.
We are cheaper than almost every other form of power being generated in Taiwan. We don't get any subsidies. We onshore do not get any subsidies. Okay? You start building these wind farms offshore, they will receive subsidies.
Right. Why is that? Because it's more expensive to implement?
Yes. It's a lot more expensive to build offshore turbines than onshore turbines.
Okay.
There's a lot more technical headaches, you might say.
Right. Well, obviously, yeah, you have to build out in the sea, I guess.
Yeah. And so they're offering like double the rate.
To them?
For offshore.
For offshore.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, Taiwan, what's your electricity rates over here? Like 3.2 or 3.3 NT per kilowatt or something? The offshore guys are getting, like 5.7 or something like that per kilowatt?
Is that sustainable, or is that like why is that something that the government is pursuing? Is it just because they want to get rid of nuclear and transition to renewable energies?
They want to transition to renewable energies, and the Taiwan government is trying to, just like the solar industry. Taiwan has a solar industry. They build solar panels and inverters, converters in Taiwan. But as of today, they do not build wind generators. Taiwan is trying to build a wind generator, offshore wind generator industry. So, and they realize that the offshore costs are much, much higher. They have to build offshore to increase the wind capacity and to build the industry up, so that they have to offer a subsidy that the government will pay for.
Right. It's just an investment into the future, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to look at it like that. The offshore industry is far, far, far from where it should be, where they want it to be today. I mean, they want to have a 20% renewable grid by 2025. In order to meet the offshore wind goals, they would really need to start building maybe 100 turbines a year, starting like last year.
Right. And that's not going to happen, right?
Well, like so far we have 2.
Right.
They want to build their own typical, the rotor, the stator, the actual generator part in Taiwan. Right now, Siemens is the only one that's going to be supplying offshore generators. You take a company like TECO, they can build generators that are maybe, I don't know, 1 megawatt, maybe smaller. And when you try to jack that thing up to 5 megawatts, and each one of those things are like 80 tons or more of copper, and they're for offshore wind generators, that technology is not here. And somebody like Siemens or Mitsubishi or GE would have to come in and teach them how to build them. And it's going to take several years for them to nail down that technology. That part's not here yet. They want to build blades. They're not building blades now. They don't have a blade factory set up here. Nobody's given them that technology. Hopefully, see, this is why I think they're offering subsidies, is they want to be able to develop this industry, and they have to encourage offshore production to do that. They need a place to build more turbines, and lots of them, so that we can build the industry and hopefully export the industry.
Is Taiwan like kind of playing catch up though with the rest of the world, or because Siemens and all these
for offshore industry?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got nothing. We really have nothing. To build. You think about it. You want to build an offshore wind turbine. You have to put the tower, and that tower has to go into the seabed. And in order to do that and lift this tower up straight, you need a very special boat. It's a boat that has legs, like 50-meter legs. We don't have those here. Yes, there's certain European companies that have these boats, but they're using them in Europe. So the one that they had here was difficult to get in, difficult to use. They built the wind turbines, 2 of them. They've got them operating. But even the boats and the service boats and even the technicians, you need how many technicians? Hundreds. That part's not there yet.
Right.
So it will be hopefully a growing industry, but to say that we want to use it as a reliable power base by 2025, we're not going to make that
At our current pace. Or
at our
rate.
current pace.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm certainly not against it. I just hopefully we can develop this industry at a reasonable pace. And it would be nice, just like in the aircraft industry and everything. They want to build aircraft, they want to build helicopters, they buy technology to come into Taiwan and develop it. That's what they want to do with the wind. They have to work on it. They are working towards it. It's just not there yet.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, all of these things, all these challenges and problems and everything, it's because wind energy and renewable energy is good for the planet, right?
I did this estimation the other day, and we have generated, our little wind farm, we've generated about 1.75 billion kilowatts over the maybe 13 years we've been in operation. And in Taiwan, the estimate is about 0.65 kilograms of carbon is generated for every 1 kilowatt of power generated. So if we've generated, like what I say, 1.75 billion kilowatts of power, it means we've eliminated about 1.2 billion kilograms of carbon from the air.
1.2 billion.
Yeah. Kilograms. So you work that out, that's like what, 1.2 million tons of carbon from our little power station?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not huge, but it's not insignificant.
Right. Yeah.
And you stop to consider, I mean, we have maybe 400 total wind turbines in Taiwan, and we're only 25.
Right.
Between Taipower and the couple other privately owned. Mm-hmm. So if you can extrapolate our 25 for 1.2 billion tons and multiply it out times 16 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, now we've eliminated like 16 million tons of carbon from the air. So it's not insignificant. Then you take in solar, and solar's growing in Taiwan.
Right.
Taiwan has a good growing solar industry because Taiwan
gets a lot of sun.
Solar. Well, not as much as you think.
Oh, really?
But we have a solar industry. We build solar panels in Taiwan. Mm-hmm. So we have a solar industry here.
Okay. Very cool.
Yep.
And hopefully that number continues to rise, right? Like, because with all the expansion of the offshore wind farms and everything, and maybe the shutdown of coal and nuclear power plants here.
Have you been down to Taichung recently?
I have not. I've heard it's horrendous, the pollution there.
I've been talking with the economic development minister, what do they call him? General Director? Director General of Economics for Taichung. Mm-hmm. And Mayor Lin is really adamant about trying to shut down as much coal-fired facilities as possible. Mm-hmm. He's really wants to build more wind in Taichung. And he's really looking at building more wind at the Taichung port. Mm-hmm. And it's something that we're very interested in doing.
Right. Okay, yeah. So your company is looking to expand.
Yep. We're looking to.
Have you guys expanded since since conception?
No.
Okay.
No. I think we should have, but so far we haven't. We've been working on a plan to build more units in Zhonghua County. Mm-hmm. We're working on a plan to build more in. Hopefully we can go into the bid for Taichung Port, and we want to maybe repower where we are now, tear down the old ones, put up new ones.
I see. Okay. Can you walk me through the process of like putting in a bid for one of these places, like trying to win a bid to create a wind farm?
For Taichung Port, mm-hmm. we turned in a concept proposal, We sat down with the Taichung Port people, and we said, okay, you guys want to put in a new wind farm. I understand that. We want to put in a new wind farm. They said, yeah, but at least for Taichung, the one that we're going through. But there's a catch. What's the catch? Well, we have all of the approval stamps except one. And that one belongs to the Construction Planning Division, which is controlled by the mayor. I'd say, okay, well, why is that a problem? Well, because the mayor, he knows he needs wind farms, but he doesn't just want wind farms. He wants some kind of entertainment value to be added to the wind farms. So we had to build a project proposal that not only included wind farms, but as we build wind generators, how are we going to use those to attract tourism to the Taichung Port? Yeah, kind of a difficult process. But we presented ideas to them that I'd really not like to talk about too much. But one of our ideas was, I'll tell you, they have like what they call entertainment property over there. So we came up with the idea of doing two things. How about if we built an electric go-kart track over there, and then because it's electric, we can make it look like we're supplying electricity from our wind turbine into the electric go-kart tracks. I'm trying to get with Gogoro. I'd love to use Gogoro technology for building electric carts. There's technology for electric carts that are like in Denmark and Sweden, places like that. But
You want to keep it local.
I want to keep it local. And I told Mr. Li, the economics director general, that I'd like to build. They have this sand area, and I said I'd like to build like off-road tracks in there, and then I want to take these little electric motorcycles, like the little off-road motorcycles, like little bitty four-wheel things. They're not ATVs; they're motorcycles that are four-wheeled. And I'd like to leave those at the electric go-kart track, and then people can rent them and drive them around into the off-track area. And he's like, that's absolutely perfect, because we actually build those here in Taichung.
There you go.
There you go.
Some synergy, yeah. Wow.
So he was pretty excited about that idea. I thought it was kind of far-fetched, but he just like jumped on it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we can do that. I showed him pictures, people riding these these little motorcycles around these little off-road tracks, and
he loved it.
He loved it. He absolutely loved it.
And so his mind was like, yes, he wants the power generation, but he also wants something for the community.
Yes.
Is that usually the case? Like how, like, and because, communities, wind generation and wind farms are really great in theory, right? But then nobody wants that wind farm in their community. They'd rather have it somewhere else.
But that's not the case that we have in Miaoli County. We're in Miaoli County. We're in Holong. And we have this hilltop. I don't know if you've ever been there or not. They call it Hawangjiao.
I haven't. No.
Cape of Good Hope. It's a huge tourist location. And seriously, every week there's thousands of tourists that come up there. After we built 3 turbines up there in that hill, we obviously had to flatten the land, build the roads. And so the community said, can we use your wind park, your wind area, to build a park? Sure, why not? So they put in these nice little stylish bricks. They put in some observation decks. And when you go up there, the view is stunning. And so far we've added a big bus parking lot up there, 3 car parking lots, three additional car parking lots, and motorcycle parking. And the reason they like it is the local, and Li Zhang built this whole area out, all of the locals like to come up there and sell their farm goods. So there's vendors everywhere. You go up there on a busy weekend, and the whole access road is lined with vendors. Peanuts and digua, sweet potatoes, and juices, locally made juices, and sweet beans, and everything else that you can think of that's grown in Miaoli area, they sell up there.
So it's become like a local gathering place, like a farmer's market.
Yes, it's like a farmer's market. And the tourists come up there, and it works. They like it. They don't want us to go. And even when something happens, they will call us and say, hey, your turbine's not working. What's going on?
Yeah. So it's kind of integrated itself into the community, and the community's, I guess, accepted it. Was that through any of your doing? Were there any initiatives to drum up interest or get the community to be more involved with the wind farm turbines area?
I think we've always had an initiative that we want to involve the locals as much as possible. If you go down there, you'll see that probably 80% of our wind tower access roads have been turned into bike paths. So the Miaoli County government said, "Can we take these access roads that we make, and can we pave them and turn them into bike paths?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure, go for it." We try to hire locals to do the jobs that our normal wind turbine company can't do. The line repairs, the road repairs, cutting the grass. We hire a groundskeeper. We actually, believe it or not, we have a farm up there, a real farm at the wind farm.
Whoa!
Yeah.
What do you guys grow or have?
We grow, what do they call it? Chong. Like the onions. Mm-hmm. We call them green onions and swamiao, and we grow sweet potatoes and peanuts and cabbage and cauliflower and asparagus.
Wow.
And, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So we grow all this stuff, and then when possible, we will bring up local schools or school kids. They come up there, and we will give them a presentation about wind turbines. We'll take them over to a wind turbine. We'll open the door and let them look inside. We put on the climbing gear on them and the hard hats, and we take pictures of these kids. If you go up there, you'll notice that the main turbine tower has been painted. We let the kids come up there and paint a energy efficient design of what they wanted on the side of the tower. So yeah, we encourage them to come up. And I bring that up because, especially kids from Taiwan, from Taipei, we take them to the farm and we show them how things are grown. Because, kids have no idea how peanuts are grown or sweet potatoes are grown or where cabbage comes from.
They're not exposed to that.
They're not exposed to it.
Living in the city.
So we try to, we can integrate power with what you eat. We can combine use and make it better for the community. Plus, we use it as training.
Right. Wow.
It's fun. And then we'll bring the vegetables back up to Taipei and give them away.
Give them away?
We give them away.
All right. Nice.
Why not? The hard part for me is every time I go up there to the hilltop, where all the farmers markets are, because I have to go up there and check out the turbines and make sure everything's okay. They all know me. So the first thing they do is stand in the middle of the road with their bags of peanuts or bags of sweet potatoes or some kind of juice drink. And you have to buy, right?
Right. Yeah. They know you, right? Yeah. You got to represent.
Seriously, Alex, it cost me $500 or $600 NT a week to go up and visit my wind farm. It's like community relations. They're happy. I'm happy. They look after our wind farm. We take a lot of pride in servicing them, and they work with us. So it's good. It works.
Okay, nice. But so what are some of the challenges that you faced when installing and operating the wind farms, though?
Rain. Obviously, heavy rains if the rains can get into the wind turbine, they'll find their way into the wind turbine and shut you down.
Is that during construction, or is that still an issue?
It's still an issue. It's an ongoing issue. The wind company, our wind turbines from this company is the first time that they've wandered out of Europe. It's their first tropical location. So, they built the houses on top out of fiberglass. Mm-hmm. And as it ages and as the wind blows, there's little cracks and things in it. Not cracks, but the joints in the joint ceiling has a tendency to come apart, so it allows water sometimes to leak in.
Okay.
They're finding ways to get around that. But typhoons, we always have to put up with typhoons.
Right.
We've never had a single incident on our wind turbines with typhoons.
Have not?
Never.
Okay. It's just so every so often some rain will get into one of the turbines.
Well, yeah, and we have to put up with earthquakes. We've never had a problem with earthquakes. It's just water, when we have low power, low wind, and heavy rain, typically if you have high power and heavy rain, the generator is really hot. So any water gets in just flashes off.
Right.
But sometimes water gets in, and then we have to go in and dry it. Shut you down for a couple of days so we can go in and dry it and get back into operation again.
Right.
It's just rain.
Rain.
Rain is our biggest, and rust.
And rust. Rust from rain.
Well, the rust from the ocean, because we're right on the ocean, right?
Of course.
The heavy winds coming off of the sea and blowing salt air into our turbines and on our stairs and inside. So it's a constant battle of cleaning and replacing. We've never had any big technical parts damaged by the rust, but like carbon steel things, the stairways leading up to it, and some of the hold down brackets we have to replace. Okay. It's a constant battle. And sand. We have a constant battle with sand. The tributary where we're located, it's a tidal area. And when the water goes out and the wind's blowing heavy, it dries off the surface really quick. And then all the sand blows up onto our access road. So it's a constant battle with sand, removing sand.
Huh.
Things you never think about, right?
Yeah, it's just the elements, right?
It's just the elements.
Not really the technical aspect. It's just, life here in Taiwan.
Yeah,
no
it's just dealing with the elements. Okay. And it's fun, and it's a challenge. And even our wind turbine provider, they've learned a lot just because we were the first. They've learned a lot how to overcome some of these, like I was talking about rain. Well, they've redesigned the housing to go from fiberglass to aluminum so that it bolts together and stays closed. So they eliminated that problem. It's just we're the first.
Right. We
are the first of their brand over here. Tai Power has problems, obviously, with certain aspects. Every company has problems with technology. So that's just pointing out some of the problems that we have that we have to deal with.
Okay. So what are the future plans of the Miaoli Wind Company?
We want to repower where we are now. In other words, these things they're smaller compared to the new technology. We want to put in newer turbines that are actually operate. They're bigger, but they operate quieter. We want to put in more over there. We want to expand hopefully into the Taichung port. We're well on the way to getting approval for building in Zhonghua, which we'd really like to do. We're kind of maybe thinking along the way of getting into solar. We want to stay renewables.
Right.
We want to stay renewables, so we're looking at different aspects.
Just want to diversify.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if you call him an agent, but the guy who works for the turbine supplier has been looking at some sites down in the Kenting area. You've been down to Kenting?
Have not, unfortunately.
You've never been to Kenting?
Never been to Kenting, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, there's a mountain range where the mountain range kind of dips down as it goes up the island, and it just allows these huge winds to come over the mountain and around the end, and it just blows through this little valley, and it's just a constant wind. They had a golf course down there, had to close down the golf course because the golf balls kept blowing away.
Right.
There's only certain times of the year that they could use the airport down there, the Hunchuan Airport. Mm-hmm. You ever heard of the Hunchuan Airport?
I have heard of that, yes.
But have you ever heard it being used?
No.
There's a reason for that.
Closed down, yeah.
Yeah, because of the winds.
I see. So, but it's perfect for wind farms. It's like a natural, I guess, a wind.
It's a wind tunnel.
Yeah.
And that's, when I lived down there in the 80s and I'd go running down that road, there's just certain spots that you just said, God, it'd just be great to put like a wind fan right in this area and just generate lots of power.
Right.
And now it looks like it's going to be actually happen.
Very cool.
It'll be good.
Yeah.
Put in another 50 or 60 turbines down there. Mm-hmm. There's room.
Okay. So would you say the future is bright in terms of wind power here in Taiwan? Because you did say you are skeptical about the 2025 target.
I'm skeptical about the offshore. Okay. I'm not a big fan of offshore just because of all the related problems that it has right now. And I really think that we should be concentrating a lot more for onshore because it's much cheaper and it's much, much, much more reliable at this point. So I'm optimistic that I think I'm becoming more optimistic now that people are starting to refocus for onshore wind. But Alex, it has to be done right. We have to work. If we're going to put them over here, we know that it's going to impact people's lives. So we have to work with the communities, just like the mayor. He wants something that will bring entertainment value. Okay, we'll work on that. Just like Hawangjiao up on the hill. We have to learn to cooperate with the local community. We have to integrate them into what we want to do. If it can benefit them through some kind of employment or increased tourism, however it is, we have to learn to integrate with the local communities to put up wind. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. If we just tell them we're just going to put it up and buzz off, it ain't going to work.
Right.
So, yeah.
There's got to be some synergy going on.
Yeah, you got to have that. Yeah, that's a good word, synergy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks, Hal, for coming on the show. And it's been great. It's been a pleasure.
Always. My pleasure.
That was my conversation with Hal Falls, General Manager of the Miaoli Wind Company. A big thank you to Hal for coming on the show. And if you like this podcast, please feel free to check out another ICRT news program offering, Taiwan This Week. Every Friday, a panel of guests discusses news from and about Taiwan from the past 7 days. And that's it for this week's Taiwan Talk. I'm Alex Lewis.